If you think the conflict between Israel and Iran is merely political, you're missing the bigger picture, one that was prophesied thousands of years ago. Today, as the whole world holds its breath watching the news, Iran openly threatens to wipe Israel off the map. Israel responds with warnings of unrelenting retaliation. Allies, enemies, and hidden forces are tightening ranks simultaneously. Many call it a geopolitical crisis, but the Bible calls it part of the final script where ancient prophecies are turning into live headlines. This confrontation didn't begin with sanctions or nuclear ambitions. Its roots trace back to promises and curses spoken in the desert between Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael, and now it's accelerating toward a point of no return. In this video, we dive straight into the burning question: how accurately did the Bible predict the outcome of the Israel-Iran conflict? And could we be living in the very moment when those ancient prophecies are about to be fulfilled? Watch this video to the very end, because I'll share not only rare prophetic Bible passages few know about, but also break down step by step how the scriptures forecast the trajectory of this Israel-Iran showdown, and why it matters directly to you today. If you care about the truth behind the headlines, the spiritual meaning of our times, and how to prepare your heart as history shifts before our eyes hit, subscribe now. Don't miss this. What you're about to hear could forever change how you see the world. Take a moment and ask yourself, why has such a small land like Israel been the center of hatred and threats of annihilation for thousands of years? Why has Iran, a nation with a magnificent Persian heritage, spent decades nurturing an ambition to destroy a people hundreds of miles away? The answer doesn't lie within emergency UN meetings or collapsed nuclear agreements. It lies in a narrative the Bible has laid out since the beginning about an unbreakable covenant and an unceasing spiritual conflict. If you read the book of Ezekiel, you'll see he wasn't speaking in vague symbols. He named specific regions: Persia, Cush, Put, Magog. These names may sound ancient, but today's modern map has rebranded them as Iran, North Africa, Central Asia, and the Northern Alliances. This is no coincidence. It is the convergence of prophecy and reality. And do you know what the most terrifying part is? The Bible doesn't just describe political motives. It reveals that the deeper purpose of this war is to destroy God's covenant with His people. So let's go back to the root of all conflict: a single family, a divine promise, and a fateful division. Nearly 4,000 years ago, God called Abraham out of his homeland to lead him to the promised land. There, God made a declaration that would forever shape human history. I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you. I will give this land as an everlasting possession. But that promise also set in motion a division that could never be undone. Abraham's first son, Ishmael, was born from Hagar, an Egyptian servant. Ishmael was not the child of divine timing, but of human uncertainty. When Sarah, Abraham's wife, doubted she would ever bear a child. Yet God did not forsake Ishmael. He gave this promise, "I will make him into a great nation." And indeed, from Ishmael came the Arab tribes, spreading across the Arabian Peninsula and becoming the ancestors of much of the Islamic world today. But God established his divine covenant only through Isaac, the promised son, born to Sarah in a miracle when she was already advanced in age. From Isaac came Jacob, who was later renamed Israel. The forefather of the 12 tribes of the Jewish people. From this lineage emerged a chosen nation, bound to an unbreakable promise of land and divine blessing. So from the very beginning, we see Ishmael, a mighty and numerous lineage, but not the bearer of the covenant. Isaac, the chosen line through which the eternal covenant would be passed. This distinction is not merely one of bloodline, but a deep spiritual fracture that has echoed throughout history and remains embedded in the tension between Israel and much of the Islamic world today. But there is a third branch that enters this story: the Persian Empire. Modern-day Iran is not a direct descendant of either Isaac or Ishmael. To understand this, we need to go back to the time of Noah. After the Great Flood, Noah had 3 sons: Shem, the ancestor of the Jewish people and other Middle Eastern nations; Ham, the ancestor of African peoples; Japheth, the ancestor of northern and eastern nations. In Genesis 10, a descendant of Japheth named Madai is mentioned. From Madai came the Medes, who later merged with the Persians to form the Medo-Persian Empire. One of the greatest superpowers of the biblical era. The Persian Empire played a complex role in biblical history. Under Cyrus the Great, Persia became an instrument of restoration, as Cyrus issued a decree allowing the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. But later, Persia also became the backdrop for a genocidal plot when Haman conspired to annihilate all the Jews as recorded in the Book of Esther. Because of this dual legacy, the Bible prophesies that Persia will once again become a key player in the final conflict. Ezekiel 38 makes this very clear. Persia, Cush, and Put will be with them, all with shields and helmets. Take note, Persia, modern-day Iran. Magog, widely believed by scholars to refer to Central Asia or Northern Russia. Cush and Put, regions believed to encompass much of North Africa. When you piece these elements together, a striking picture emerges. A small nation Israel, born from Abraham's covenant, a vast Islamic territory, largely descended from Ishmael, an ancient Persia now. Iran, once an ally, later a threat, now becoming the spearhead against Israel. We've just witnessed the larger story, the intertwined origins of Israel, Iran, and the fateful branches that have stretched from the days of Abraham into modern geopolitics. But perhaps the most important takeaway is not just understanding the past, it's recognizing why the Bible specifically names Persia, Iran, as playing a central role in the final chapter of history. So why does Iran appear by name in biblical prophecy? What signs are we seeing today that show these prophecies are no longer distant, they are drawing near? And finally, what will happen when God Himself enters this battle on the Mount of Olives? Let us continue and uncover the answer together. If you open to Ezekiel chapter 38, you'll see the name Persia appear at the very beginning of the list of nations that will join forces to attack Israel-Persia. Cush and Put will be with them, all with shields and helmets. This is no coincidence. In Ezekiel's time, Persia was the most powerful empire in the world, and historically, it had played both roles: a vessel of restoration under Cyrus and the backdrop of a genocidal plot during the time of Haman. Because of this dual history, the Bible places Persia at the center of a spiritual pattern, a nation once used by God, then exploited by darkness, and ultimately part of a global alliance against Israel. So, when Iran today repeatedly declares that Israel is a cancerous tumor that must be erased, when it pours billions of dollars into funding Hamas, Hezbollah, and extremist militias, you're not just witnessing headlines, you're watching a 500-year-old prophecy unfold on live news. What signs show us that the final battle is drawing near? Just look at what's been happening in just the past few years. Iran has openly accelerated its nuclear program, ignoring all sanctions. Its proxy groups have launched thousands of rockets toward Israel, Russia, Turkey, and Iran have formed a growing strategic alliance, three powers that many scholars identify as Magog, Gog, and Persia. The calls to wipe Israel off the map are no longer just slogans. They're military strategies embedded in Iran's official defense doctrine. These aren't vague omens. They are puzzle pieces coming together into the final image Ezekiel saw, and what happens when God intervenes on the Mount of Olives. The Bible is clear. On that day, His feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, and the Lord will go out and fight against those nations. Zechariah 14. That day won't be for negotiation. There will be no more treaties, no more resolutions. That is the moment Jesus returns, not as the humble Savior, but as the glorious King. Revelation 19 describes Him riding a white horse, leading the armies of heaven on His robe and on His thigh. He has this name written: King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And when His feet touch the Mount of Olives, the battle will not end with the destruction of mankind, but with the ultimate victory of God, silencing every scheme that dared rise against His covenant. Do you see it now? This is not just a conflict between Israel and Iran. This is the intersection between ancient prophecy and the modern world. What you are witnessing on the news each day. We've just seen the full picture from Ezekiel's vision to the urgent realities of our own time. But perhaps the greatest question is not when the final battle will begin. It's this: how will you respond, and how will I respond? What should you do to keep your faith and remain awake in this pivotal time in history? The Bible has never called us to live in fear. On the contrary, Jesus said, "When these things begin to take place, Stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. Luke 21:28. This means do not panic at the news. Do not ignore the signs. Stay alert. Be strong in prayer. And keep reminding yourself that God is in control of history. Why is your prayer more important now than ever before? You might feel too small to make a difference, but the Bible clearly says the prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. James 5:16. When you pray for Israel, for peace in Jerusalem, and for the millions caught in the midst of this conflict, you are standing with God in the very story He is bringing to fulfillment. Psalm 122:6 is not a suggestion, it is a divine command for His people. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And what awaits us all when the King returns? When Jesus sets foot on the Mount of Olives, no resolution will be able to delay His victory. Every power, every regime, every ideology that stands against Israel will collapse before the glory of the King. That day will not be a day of fear. It will be the day every promise is fulfilled, the day when every knee shall bow and every tongue confess Jesus Christ is Lord. You may feel today that the world is more chaotic than ever, but remember, you are not invisible in this story. Your faith, your prayers, your watchfulness are part of the greater picture God is painting. And He has promised. He will never break His covenant. Let your heart not be shaken. Be courageous, stay awake, and be ready, for the King is not delaying. He is preparing to return. If this video stirred something in your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe so you won't miss future insights on Scripture and current events. Share this video with someone who needs to see the bigger picture behind the headlines. And if you're ready, leave a comment below. I stand with the King, because this war is real. But so is the victory, and the King is coming.